here we are. We are just about to finish my path through the bush. We're on the far end of the bush. I decided to go around to the outside and make my way in versus continuing to drive through the bush to get to the spot because it's starting to become a little bit of a long trip. And I figured going around the bush would be better. So here we are. I've actually just cleared out a whole bunch of these little trees. Any of these ones that are not overly too big, I'm not worried about notching the tree. They're not really going to do a lot of damage to me if I misjudge my angle and don't get it down. I'm not a professional by any means at cutting down trees and stuff, but I do try to kind of make myself a little bit of a space as I'm going. These branches can be very annoying, so I'll try to get rid of them as I go. And when I say annoying, I'm just meaning that, you're going to have to pick your places as you go through not to get poked on them. So I try to do them as I go. It's the same thing with the small little trees, small little branches that are kind of sticking out everywhere as I'm trying to make this path. They just kind of grab you from everywhere. So you're trying to clear out a little bit of spots so you can kind of be comfortable trying to clear this little path. I am coming up against a little moment. I hate these trees in particular, but these guys here sometimes are a little bit tough on the chainsaw, and of course the chain decided to come off there. So I did have a little bit of a delay because I left the tool to put the chain back on up at the house. So I did have to drive all the way back up to the house, which is not the worst thing in the world, and get the tool. And I figured it was better just to bring the tool back than bringing the chainsaw to the house. But in hindsight, I should have brought the chainsaw up because it needed a little bit of cleaning, and I didn't have all the proper stuff to do while I was out in the field. So we just made do and did the best we could out in the field. Tried to untangle the chain and get as much of the wood and the debris out of that little kind of gearbox area so that everything would smoothly rotate and move freely. This little delay ended up taking way longer than it should have. As I went back to the house, I decided that I would try some different sides of the bush to see which way was easier for me to drive through, because there's some ditches for drainage. And of course, I got stuck in one of them, so I had to go get a little bit of wood and put it underneath my tire to help get me out, which came out pretty easy, but just sucked to have to walk back and get some wood. And also, when I got to the house, I realized, I should get some more gas in the tractor, and I ran out of gas, so I actually went to the gas station. So all of a sudden, all I had done was about, 3 or 4 little trees, and then all those little baby trees that were just in my way. And it took me probably an hour and a half just to get that little bit done. So starting to feel a little bit defeated at this point in time, but wanting to make up for it. So I kind of got back to it, and I started to make some really good progress. Again, these little trees, just kind of have to get those out of the way to get to the big ones. Definitely 20 years ago, I would have just grabbed these trees and just pulled them out and yanked them as hard as I could. But didn't take me very long to be like, no, I'm getting the tractor, screw it. So grabbed the tractor and pulled out some of these small ones because they're just attached to each other, and they're just, a waste of effort and energy trying to get them all individually and stuff like that, because it just seems like you're fighting against yourself because everyone's just got this little bit of a detachment to another bush or tree that's there. And it also is really nice and handy to get some of the hard ones. That one there was quite attached to another tree, so that one, it was fantastic to use the tractor to get. And then there's another one that was also kind of a little bit hard, and I could have got off the tractor and made my way around to try to get it, because it was a little bit of a harder angle to get to. But that's one thing that's nice about having the third function on the tractor. Kind of use that third function to just get enough of a couple of the branches just to help get the tree into a position that I can get it a little bit better, and then I can finally get a whole grip with that third function on the grapple. I love that third function. It is the greatest thing. And eventually here I do grab it and it pulls it out nice and easy. And again, as I'm getting older, it's just so much easier than struggling, trying to pull it out. I'd probably be a lot better shape if I was to continue to struggle to pull that out, but I get hurt a lot easier and sore a lot easier than I used to be. So using the tractor, that's a great way to have some fun and get the job done at the same time. So after taking a couple of minutes just to clear away some of that debris, which makes it a lot more safe while I'm in there. Again, I'm not like a professional, and a professional would be able to nitpick and pull everything apart that I did and be like, oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. I'm just, a casual farmer that's trying to, retake a little bit of the bush out back and clean up some of these trees that have fallen over. Really didn't go out to the bush for about the last 20 years. So there's been a lot of trees that have fallen over, and like if you look right here, there's at least 6 trees that are down all in this exact same spot. So while I'm making this trail through the bush, I'm not just randomly going, through certain spots. I'm actually aiming for all the spots that have a lot of trees down, and I'm also trying to keep it to a little bit of the high ground so that if, in the spring I want to go through there, I'm not going through wet, marshy kind of area. I will say one of the biggest mistakes I made when I started doing the kind of renovations and cleaning up the property is not buying a good chainsaw earlier. This Stihl chainsaw is absolutely fantastic. The first chainsaws I got were not nearly as good, and I wasted my time and my money with them, and they would break. I went through 3 different chainsaws because I really was just trying to be cheap and get cheap chainsaws, and I kept having to take them back because like the silliest things, like the tightener knob that they had on it instead of like a screw on this one, would just break, or something else that was just really silly would break. And eventually I just gave up and I went in and I got this Stihl chainsaw, which is just so much better. Super glad I did it. It made me wish I had done it a lot earlier. It just handles so much better. So these logs that I'm cutting, I'm trying to cut them to about 6 to 8 feet long sections, and then just take them up to the pole barn, and then I'll cut them probably in the spring or the summer and something time like that. I'm just really trying to focus on the bush and getting as many out of the bush as I can during the winter time. And in the spring, summer, I'll chop these all up probably and put them into my bins that I have for firewood. I've been selling firewood on the side. It's not the type of thing I'm going to ever get rich off of, but it's nice to get $40 here, $100 there, just randomly and stuff like that with some people coming in to get some wood. So it's not hurting when I have the wood right here just to continue doing that. And, it's also something to kind of do because I do like kind of keeping myself busy. I do like getting out and doing some work and basically kind of keeping active, so to speak. So I'm just making 2 different piles here. One pile of good stuff and one pile of stuff that I would actually probably just burn to get rid of or just leave in the bush. It just makes life a lot easier if I can grab a whole bunch of the logs and put them together and get as much in there as possible. And then I'm just driving them up to the barn for cutting later. I could bring around the old manure spreader that I have and throw them in there and bring them up, but then I'd have to take them out of there by hand, so it's just easier to drive up with it. And we're pretty much at the end of this day. I will say stay tuned to the very end. I may have stepped on something very sharp, and then as I lifted my foot off of it, I tripped over some wood, and I tumbled, and there she goes. And that's the end of the video, and please subscribe, and see you on the next one.